The movie opens as we see a little mouse kept inside a jar. All of a sudden, a man takes it out of there, and the mouse is then decapitated. We are then taken to Blackwood Pharmaceuticals, where a pre-recorded message is being shown. It explains how the company thoroughly studies drugs before releasing them to the public. This is called Phase 1, and involves healthy volunteers. Following this, a young woman named Claire arrives at the facility as a volunteer. Claire is escorted to her room, which she has to share with two other girls. One of them, named Allison, introduces herself, and tries to make small talk. But she's so annoying that Claire ignores her and simply lays down. After a while, all the volunteers are summoned to the main hall, where there is no mobile reception. Dr. Burke then shows up and announces that she will be supervising the trial. This is the Phase 1 safety study for a new drug developed by Blackwood Pharmaceuticals. The duration is 5 days, and all the volunteers will be given the drug, which they have to consume. As the days pass, the dosage will gradually increase. Dr. Burke also makes it clear that no one is allowed to leave the facility until and unless the trial ends. Following this, all the volunteers are handed some pills, which they consume without any hesitation. During lunch, Claire learns that some of the other participants have previously volunteered for similar trials. All of them are young, healthy, and in desperate need of money. Among them is Vanessa, who keeps to herself, and doesn't engage in any social interactions. The entire day, the volunteers have to go through numerous tests, which leaves them feeling very tired. Claire tries to rest, but she is continuously disturbed by her talkative roommate Allison. The side effects of the drug combined with extreme fatigue causes her to rush to the bathroom to puke. She then meets with another volunteer, Amir. Turns out he's a medical student who came here not for the money, but for the experience. He hopes that one day, he will be hired as an intern at Blackwood Pharmaceuticals. That night, a sleepless Claire gets up and notices that her roommates' beds are empty. Feeling uneasy, she quietly makes her way to the living room, only to find the other 6 test subjects, all similarly awake and restless. They think that the drug makes it hard for them to sleep. However, Dr. Burke examines them the next morning, and reassures them that it's only a minor case of insomnia. In the next scene, we see that 30 hours have passed since the trial began. None of the volunteers have managed to fall asleep, and they spend most of their time in the main hall, playing games and socializing with each other. Elsewhere in her office, Dr. Burke contacts her superiors to report the drug's adverse effects on the participants, and its potential to cause brain inflammation. She suggests halting the trial to prevent further harm, but her superiors seem to have other plans. Later, Dr. Burke informs the test subjects that there will be a change in the trial's course. The new objective is to see how long they can go without sleeping, and this obviously raises a few questions among the group. Amir, who is a medical student himself, tries to chat with Dr. Burke, but she asks him to go back. The next morning, Dr. Burke says that the medication dose will be significantly increased. The news angers the participants, who are already concerned about the drug's impact on their bodies. They refuse to take the higher dose, so the doctor welcomes them to leave. But they quickly change their minds when Dr. Burke reveals that there will be an additional €30,000 for each participant who stays until the end. Later, the group plays some music, and begins dancing to celebrate their newfound wealth. But they don't even last 10 minutes as fatigue sets in, and everyone begins to yawn. Seeing their condition, a concerned Dr. Burke urges her superiors to stop the trial, but the greedy superiors order her to carry on. They even ask her to increase the dosage as they are adamant on seeing what happens. In the meantime, the volunteers discuss how they are going to spend the money once the trial ends. Allison cheerfully suggests that they remain friends, but Claire rudely dismisses the idea. She even asks Allison if she doesn't have a real friend, which offends the friendly Allison, and prompts her to leave. Meanwhile, Amir, the medical student, hears Dr. Burke talking to her superiors. After the doctor walks out, Amir goes through her computer, and he is shocked to find that all of their brains are being inflamed. He copies all the documents so he can expose this fraud company once they get out. Back in the main hall, Claire notices Allison sitting alone, which makes her feel bad. But as Claire tries to wake her up,
Allison, wake up!
Whoa!
Allison suddenly has a violent seizure, which leaves her shaking uncontrollably, and the poor girl eventually succumbs to her brain injuries. Dr. Burke is horrified to notice this, but the group doesn't get the time to react as an alarm suddenly starts blaring throughout the facility. It alerts them of a security breach, and a 30-second countdown is initiated for the lockdown. Dr. Burke immediately rushes towards the exit, but as she tries to get through, she gets stuck in between. The participants frantically pull her out, but Dr. Burke can only say "I'm sorry" before passing away. Following this, the clock resets, displaying a 24-hour countdown, meaning that none of them can leave the facility before the lockdown ends. Amir then shows up and frantically reveals everything. He explains that he learned that their brains have been inflamed to the point that they will instantly die if they go to sleep. This freaks the others out, and a guy even tries to attack him, but Amir reassures them that they can be fully cured if they get medical help. They only have to last these 24 hours without falling asleep. The group then inquires about how the lockdown was initiated, to which Amir says he's not sure. He theorizes that Dr. Burke must have done it for some reason. Shortly after, Amir hands each participant 5 pouches of smelly salts, which they can use to stay awake.
Hey, go easy, right!
He also warns them against taking any stimulants, or even coffee, as that would only worsen their condition. Following this, the group tries their best to pass the time without falling asleep. It has already been more than 4 days since they last slept, so it's a challenging task. Some engage in exercise while others start making vlogs, hoping they can become famous when they get out. Meanwhile, Amir conducts a brain scan of Claire and is horrified to learn the results. But he decides not to disclose it for now. As time passes, the participants slowly begin to feel the effects of sleep deprivation. A guy named Ray finishes all of his smelly salts, and begins pestering the others. But none of them help him, and the quiet girl, Vanessa, even shouts at him to stop bothering her. Elsewhere, Amir is tirelessly working in the lab to find a cure. And then suddenly, turns out he's just hallucinating. Sometime later, Claire finds herself staring blankly at a painted wall, lost in thought. But just as she's about to fall asleep, another participant named Marcus jolts her awake. Despite the grim circumstances, he appears to be doing really well, and reveals that he's doing a lot of exercise. Later on, in the bathroom, Marcus is whistling and hears someone whistle back although he's supposed to be alone. Then he turns on the tap, only to discover the water doesn't make noise when it falls. It isn't until he turns it off that he finally hears the delayed noise. When he knocks on the mirror, the same happens. The sound arrives a few seconds later. Scared, Marcus leaves the bathroom and hears the whistling in the corridors. He starts wandering around yet doesn't see a single person, and when he makes it to the front hall, he's shocked to see the door opening. Marcus goes through the door, and into a deep darkness, but a moment later, the others find him dead on the floor, because the hallucination made him fall asleep. The rest of the group is devastated by this, but they have no choice but to carry on. In the next scene, Claire suggests they work together to find a way out. Since 15 more hours are remaining, they can't just wait or they'll end up with the same grim fate. Heeding her advice, the group draws a map of the facility and selects a wall they will need to target. The others take turns striking the wall with an axe. After much effort, they manage to create a hole, only to find a thick metal barrier guarding the facility. The group is devastated by this setback, but Claire refuses to give up. She seeks out Amir to discuss alternative options and finds him in a lab room, looking distraught. When she asks what's wrong, Amir hands her a confession letter. It is revealed that he was the one who triggered the lockdown by copying files and breaching security. Overwhelmed with guilt, he feels like giving up, and falling asleep. But Claire stops him, asserting that whatever happened is the past, and he must help them escape. Amir is inspired by her words, and he uses his medical brain to quickly come up with an idea. He theorizes that if they mix certain chemicals, they can create a poison which would induce brain death. But since they are already under the influence of a strong drug, this might neutralize the drug's effects within them. Claire likes the idea and rushes to inform the others about it. However, a guy named Paul reveals that they don't trust Amir anymore. They suspect that Amir is collaborating with Blackwood Pharma, and Paul found an empty bottle of stimulants in Amir's belongings, something which he had forbidden them from taking. They believe that he used all the pills to make sure he doesn't fall asleep. After a while, the entire group, except Claire, confronts Amir in the lab and ties him up. Ray is particularly aggressive, and he even grabs a knife and threatens Amir to reveal everything. When the situation starts getting out of hand, Claire shouts that Amir has a cure. The group is skeptical, as they believe Amir is trying to poison them with his cure. But Claire is certain that he's telling the truth, so she declares that she'll be the volunteer. Following this, the group begins preparing the formula under Amir's instructions. They work tirelessly for a while. While Paul works, Vanessa talks to Ray in private, saying that she's found a sedative they can use on Amir. At that moment, Paul finishes mixing the cure and gets the injection ready. While everyone is distracted, Vanessa approaches Amir to give him the sedative, however she suddenly falls to the floor. In an out-of-body experience, Vanessa watches the others rush to her body, but soon smoke and darkness surround her. She sees the devil appear before her and screams as her real body starts bleeding and having a seizure. Paul rushes to grab the cure, but Vanessa's shaking knocks the needle away and breaks it, then she pukes and finally dies. To make matters worse, Paul's fast movement knocks the jar with the rest of the cure off the table, causing it to break as well. Amir can only laugh like a maniac, because his formula was wasted just like that. In the aftermath of this tragic event, Claire goes to the main hall to see how much time is remaining. But due to her fragile state, she hallucinates the words goodnight. Then, she goes into a trance, where she starts hearing her mother's voice singing a lullaby. Everything goes dark, and Claire realizes that she's on the verge of death. But despite all of this, she digs down deep, and somehow manages to inhale the smelly salt, bringing her back to normalcy. And then as she holds onto the nearby wall to get up, Claire realizes that it is hollow from inside. This makes her hopeful once again, and she immediately summons Paul to the scene. The two then break through the wall, and discover an autopsy room. They also find an elevator which seemingly leads the dead bodies to the exit. Filled with joy, Claire decides to inform the others about it, but Paul stops her. He says that the both of them should just escape, as the others have gone insane. On the other hand, Amir continues having hallucinations of a zombified Dr. Burke. She starts manipulating his thoughts, urging him to take a stand against the others. She also points at a nearby knife, telling him to kill everyone else. A while later, an enraged Ray enters the room. Turns out he has found the confession note, which reveals that Amir was the one who put them in this situation. Filled with rage, he grabs a scalpel, and proceeds to cut the poor guy. But before he can do so, Amir breaks free from his restraints and causes Ray to injure his neck with the scalpel. This gives a brainwashed Amir to grab hold of the knife. He repeatedly stabs Ray in the chest, killing him instantly. Upon hearing the commotion, Paul and Claire arrive at the scene, only to witness Ray's lifeless body. But they realize that Amir has gone insane because of sleep deprivation. This forces the duo to run for their lives, with the medical freak chasing after them. Paul reaches the autopsy room first, but the damn guy chooses to lock the door, leaving Claire to fend for herself. Claire rushes to the MRI room, but when Amir proceeds to finish her off, the MRI machine's magnet pulls his knife away. This gives Claire enough time to punch him and run away. On the other hand, the selfish Paul enters the elevator and starts it. He claims in his video recording that he's the only one who can escape this wretched facility. But to his horror, turns out it's not an elevator, but an incinerator, and he ends up dying a painful death. Elsewhere, both the remaining survivors have exhausted all their energy. They lay on the ground, and are on the verge of falling asleep. But just then, the lockdown ends, and the exit door finally opens. Amir somehow gets up on his feet, and staggers towards the exit. But as soon as he gets out, he is greeted by some men, who immediately shoot him down. Claire hears the gunshots from the other room, which snaps her out of her hallucination. She immediately realizes that the officials are trying to tie up loose ends, so she decides to hide. Claire somehow manages to reach the corridor, where she finds all the participants in body bags. She then hears the men approaching, so she smears some blood on her face and gets inside a body bag. The plan luckily works, as the men assume she's dead and that there are no survivors left. All the bodies, including Claire, are loaded into a van and driven away. After a while, she gets out from the bag, but the driver notices her, and this scares him so much that he ends up crashing the van nearby. Claire summons all her strength to kick open the back door, and tries to walk, but soon collapses to the ground due to exhaustion. The scene then cuts to a few months later, where we see Claire is still in a coma at the hospital. A news report then reveals that Blackwood Pharmaceuticals has been cleared of all charges, and the incident was blamed on Dr. Burke. The movie ends as Claire suddenly snaps out of her coma.